Okay. My name is Sarah Smith. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a professor of history at American River College, and today's date is August 1st, 2023. Let's start off by establishing the basics. What's your full name? What are your pronouns? And what's your date of birth?
My name is William Roby. My pronouns are he, his, him, and my birthday is November 30th, 2001.
So tell me a little about yourself. What are your interests and hobbies? What do you like to do?
I'm really into modeling. I'm more into like editorial and like fashion. I'm very quirky. I love awkward poses. I was a theater kid. I love theater. I'm gonna go see Rent later this month. I love hiking. I love outdoors. I love sports. I love hanging out with friends. Yeah.
What kind of sports do you like?
I played baseball. I think watching, I would say basketball or football. I don't enjoy like watching it, but I enjoy the atmosphere. I enjoy like talking bad about somebody else's team and getting the reaction out of it, especially if they lose.
Did you play baseball growing up?
I didn't play sports until high school. But like I went in like running, like I did my freshman year. I did wrestling, I did football, and I did track and field. And I didn't do baseball until my sophomore year.
And you said that you're into modeling.
Mhm.
So can you elaborate a little bit? How did you get into modeling?
I did a photo shoot, I'd say back when George Floyd passed. That was like a bunch of people with different skin tones, and it was just showing us like kind of trying to portray a message. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed like the art behind of it. And I went to a modeling boot camp by one of my favorite photographers. And after that, I kind of just like messaged people. I was like, hey, do you want to shoot? Like, do you want to collab? Like, I will like wear whatever. Like, I'll buy the clothes. You just take pictures of me. And then the more I did it, the more experience I got. And then I was able to start charging, and I was able to, like go to LA and start shooting. And then I've like gone to the Bay Area a lot. And then I moved into fashion shows and all that kind of stuff. I love it. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So where did you grow up and where do you live now?
I have moved between Sacramento and Oakland a lot. I mostly lived in Sacramento, but after my dad passed, I moved in with my grandmother in Oakland, and ever since then, I've been like going back and forth between like my mom and my grandma. So, but I live in Sacramento now.
And where do you currently attend college?
I go to American River College. Go Beavers!
Are you full-time or part-time?
I'm full time. Yeah, 12 units.
And when did you start?
I started in 2019, a long time ago.
For young people, that seems like a long time.
It's such a long time ago. Like just got out of high school. I went straight into it. And then the pandemic hit, and literally, I've never taken an online class before. And my GPA, like I think I was sitting at like a 3.7. And I just kept enrolling in classes during COVID because I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back this semester. Like I'm actually gonna try it, and just never worked for me. And by the time I physically went back to school, my GPA was like a 2.1 because I just had Fs every single semester. Like I haven't gotten financial aid since then or anything like that. So
What was it about online education, do you think, or was there other stuff going on for you that made it difficult?
yeah, my cousin passed. That was really hard. Like relationships, my car flipped, and that was really traumatic. I was without a car. Um, I think there was just a lot of things like my stepdad, like he had like a big cyst on his neck that we all thought was cancer. But I really enjoy like the people to people. Like I really enjoy talking to people, and just like talking to a computer, like it's just gonna like make me bored and make me not want to do it. Just being blatantly honest.
So what do you study?
So I am gonna have an AA in Administration of Justice and Social Justice.
Social justice studies.
Mhm.
And what made you decide to major in those two areas?
Administration of Justice was more just because I want to know my rights. I think everybody should know their rights, especially people of color, just regarding like police and everything that's going on in the world. Social justice, I mean, there's inequalities every single day. A lot of people are, I don't want to say afraid to speak up, but a lot of people don't know how to. And I think that was kind of like reinforced to me is to be like an advocate for people because I'm very outspoken, and I thought that was a really good avenue to go.
And are you hoping to transfer?
I want to go. So now I kind of changed. I wanted to go to CSULA. I wanted to go to Sac State, and I randomly threw in like Howard or the CSU in Hawaii at Manoa, but that's expensive.
I didn't realize there was a CSU in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Maybe it's not the CSU in Hawaii. It's just the University of Hawaii, Manoa.
Okay.
Not CSU. That wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, that would make any sense. Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Where are you leaning?
Mostly, I would say I just got out of a relationship, and that made me pick Sac State because I wanted to stay in the area. But now that I'm not, like, my brother lives right next to CSU LA, and they have a really good ethnic studies program, and it's a lot better than the one at Sac State, at least so I've been told in the research I've done. So I'm going to apply to both, see what scholarships I get, and kind of go down that route. Howard would be really fun too, because like I mean, always wanted to go to an HBCU to experience like a different atmosphere than California, and you know, see like everything that has to do, the homecomings and stuff. But yeah.
So you think you'll major in ethnic studies?
Mm-hmm.
And why did you decide on ethnic studies? Is it probably related to what you said about social justice studies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to be a diversity and equity officer, like on campuses or like in different companies and stuff. And I just think that we're all like such different people and we all come from different backgrounds, and it's really important to know like everybody's background, to know like a lot about people's cultures and history so you don't like offend anybody, to be quite honest. And I think it would really like help me, you know, like with a career in the future.
So you want to be a diversity and equity officer.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to say about that? Like why you chose that career path?
I mean, like, to be honest, like, I mean, I went to Mariloma High School, and I think Mariloma, there was a study that came out that like 70 or like 80% of the students that like were suspended were Black people. And I think even at ARC, there's so much that we can do to really like diversify the campus. Like, I mean, yes, we see like a lot of different cultures. We really lack the African American, like, I don't want to say experience, but a lot of like seeing people that look like you. You know, I think we really lack that, and it's something we could do a really like a better job on, and I would love to help with something like that in the future.
So you mean like people in higher status positions?
Higher status positions, like I mean, just seeing like more students, like who are we reaching out to? Like why is our campus not getting that many like students that want to come here that are people of color?
So can you tell me about how you identify with regard to your social identities, broadly speaking? So race, ethnicity, sexuality, gender, ability, religion, and so on?
Yeah, so I would say I identify as bisexual or pansexual, because I think you can love anybody. I don't think love has a gender, a name. I think love is love, and you can fall in love with any person's soul. I'm mostly attracted to men, so I mean, it's kind of hard to like say which one. But yeah, and then regarding like my race, my dad was Black and my mom's Italian, so I'm mixed, which a lot of people usually don't get. And yeah.
Anything you want to say with regard to gender, ability, or religion?
Oh, grew up Catholic, never again. My cousin, before she passed, she showed me like, I don't know, she was Buddhist and she showed me a lot of things. And like, I just love seeing her so happy all the time and not like in her head about if she's doing something right or wrong against this higher being, or just really like enjoying her life and being like one with herself and meditating and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So are you a Buddhist, or are you thinking about that, or?
Yeah, I would say that. I feel like after her passing, I got like a lot more like in touch with it. I mean, I got a tattoo about it. It's definitely something I identify with more than definitely being Catholic.
So you said that you identify as bisexual or pansexual. So what does that mean to you? I mean, you talked about it a little bit already, but is there anything else you want to say about what it means to you?
Yeah. I think that there are so many different people in this world that you're going to meet, and you shouldn't limit yourself to saying like, oh, I only like one person just because they are in this like certain category. I think different people have different experiences that you can identify with a lot more and create like a human connection. Um, yeah, I would say that's why I identify.
And are you out as bi or pan to friends and family?
Not as gay, which I think is hard because I think I couldn't take a step back now. Like I think if I dated a girl, everybody would be shocked. Um, but I like everybody knows me as gay, and I think that's kind of I don't want to say easier, but I mean a lot of people when I did say I was bisexual, a lot of people were kind of just like confused on like why I couldn't just pick one, if that makes sense.
So you're out as gay to family and friends, or does it depend who we're talking about?
Definitely depends who I'm talking to. um, yeah, most of my family knows. I have like a great grandfather who's a pastor that will never know. I refuse to ever tell him. And especially when it comes to friends on campus, like when I'm talking to like guys or something like that, I usually like change my wallpaper. Or like if I'm talking to like a hetero man, I'll try to like lower my voice or add less of a twang to my voice or something like that. So I would say it depends.
And so can you elaborate a little bit more about like why you are mostly out as gay rather than bisexual to people?
I think it's so much like I think a lot of how do I say this? I think it's easier to be honest. And like I feel like it's easier for people to just put me in a category rather than trying to be like, oh, okay, well, like, should I hang out with him because he might try to hit on me or something like that, or and I think it's a lot, yeah, kind of like what I said, easier to put somebody in a category. It's a lot less like, oh, why can't you just choose one? You know.
Does it make you feel a certain way, or how does it make you feel the fact that you don't feel like people know you as gay rather than bisexual?
I don't know. I don't think I really ever put a lot of thought to it. I think it was just something I've kind of like accepted. Um, I think it would be cool, like for people to kind of like I don't want to say see me as like who I am, but I mean maybe just see a different side of me. Yeah.
Are you worried about? It sounds like what you're saying. This might not be the correct interpretation, but like it sounds like you're worried about biphobia a little bit.
Yeah, I would say so. I think like a lot of my like girlfriends, like people I hang out with, if I came out as bi, like a lot of our experiences would change together. Like it would, they really wouldn't. Their boyfriends probably wouldn't be comfortable with me hanging out with them like by myself. I think like on the other end, like people just wouldn't kind of know what to do with me. People would kind of just take a step back and be like, whoa, you know.
Do you feel like it would be harder to feel totally included and accepted in the queer community or
Yeah,
the gay community?
absolutely. Yeah. I think that our community has come a long way, but our community definitely still has some problems that we need to work out with, especially in just like categorizing people and doing things like that.
So, can you talk some about your coming out experiences? So, how did your family respond to you coming out?
Um, I would say it's so funny. I only told my mom, and my mom told like my entire family. It was a pretty good experience. Like I was dating a guy when I was 18, and he lived in Pollock Pines, which is like an hour or something north. And I would just say I'm spending the night at like one of my guy friends' house, and then I would just go. And I didn't have a car, so I was picked up every single time. So I would like sneak into his car and do all that kind of stuff. And like my mom started like picking up on things like, why are you like, you've never been out this much, you've never been like leaving. And I remember I was just so tired of just like lying. I was just like, this is exhausting, just trying to like fake a funk, you know. And I remember I just like stood at her doorstep and I just started like bawling. And I was just like, Mom, like there's something I want to tell you. Like it's really hard and I don't want like you to think of me any type of way. I don't want like my brothers or like my stepdad to like think of me any type of way, but like I'm gay. I told her I was bi. I was like, I'm bi. I have a boyfriend, somebody who I've been hanging out and like going to go see. And then she started crying. I started crying, and then I was a dork, so I played "I'm Coming Out" at the end of it, and then we both started like laughing, and it was really nice. Yeah. And,
Why do you think she started to cry?
I don't think I've ever been that vulnerable with her. I mean, like masculinity is still something I like struggle with a lot. That's why I was so afraid to tell my brothers or my stepdad, because they are just so like captain of the football team and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know. I just like I've always been told like to be tough and to be strong and to not show emotion.
Is that why? So why did you cry when you came out? Why did you feel like you had like you were hiding it in the first place, and then and then why did you cry when you came out?
I was scared. I did not want to tell my brother or my stepdad. They would make comments like while we were in public, just about people. Would just be laughing at people. They would always like talk about women or something like that, and I'd have to sit there and lie about it and agree. And it was just something that like I just didn't want to be treated differently, because like I didn't want like the same way I grew up with to just be like changed because of the fact of like me like opening up about my sexuality. And my mom like always talked about how she wanted grandkids, and like I really want kids, and I felt like me telling her this was something of like, you're never gonna have them from me, you know.
So were you afraid of how she would react? That she would be like she wouldn't be happy for you, or was that going on in your head?
Yeah. I dated a girl who was my best friend, and my mom was so happy. Like that's the happiest I've like seen her, because they loved her, and I feel like everybody wanted me to date this one person. I didn't really want to date her, but everybody was just like pushing for it. Like we won or we got second place in like royalty for our senior bowl, and we weren't even like, I think we were just still best friends at that time. We didn't even start dating. And I think everybody wanted me to, and I know she wanted me to, and I saw her so happy, and I was like, man, is this going to make her not happy? Yeah, and it was just a hard thing to talk to her about, but glad I did.
Did growing up Catholic have anything to do with it, or?
I would say for my mom, no. Say for my grandparents, yeah, for sure. They were anytime I went with them, we always went to church. With my mom, we stopped going to church like after we got out of like housing and all that kind of stuff. But with like my grandma, we always went to church, and to this day we still go to church anytime we see her. And it was just something like built into it, it was just something about like you have to be with a man and a woman, and there's no other way around it. Yeah.
So how has your relationship been with the rest of your family since you came out to your mom and then she told everybody?
It's pretty good. My brother is still, ever since then actually I haven't dated a girl. And my brother is still very much like, oh, you know what, you still are confused, you don't know what you want, like, you just need to like date another girl that isn't like, the first girl that you dated, and very much like that. And me and my mom had a pretty big hiccup. So when I was young, I used to sneak and watch RuPaul's Drag Race, season 5. And I used to sneak, delete it off the TV every single time after like a new episode. And I remember I had like a fascination with it. Like I love it. And to this day, I love going to watch a drag show. And I remember she found it one time and she like, what is this? And like got really upset. And I was like, I have no idea how that got on there, whatever. We moved past that, but towards the end of like my first relationship, I was like, dang, I really want to try it. I really want to do, and that was something that was really hard for my mom to take. And she's come a long way. She wants me. I think she wants me to do it now. But that was something of like, you can't do that. Like what did I do wrong? Like how you want to be a cross dresser? Like all of that kind of stuff. And I kept trying to explain to her, it's not even that. It's just like the aspect of being like, I don't say feminine, but like being something that I haven't been like for a really long time, which is being able to show like a little bit of sass or like a little bit of like, like I don't know. But that was a really hard point. And like even with like my stepdad, like that was yeah.
So have you performed in drag or dressed in drag?
I mean, like whenever they have like the little like dance for like a drink or something like that, I'll go up. But no, I haven't. During a lot of what was it? I want to say at the beginning of this year when all of the anti like LGBTQ legislation came out, I was trying to put a video together to this song like "This Is Me" and get a bunch of like local drag queens, and I was gonna like dress up in drag. And sadly, it was just something that fell apart. But I really want to. I think it would be so much fun. I think nobody would expect me to do it. Like, yeah.
Have you been to the bear dive?
I've been there once. So I was, or I technically am still part of like what was it? It was like this, I want to say it was the chambers. It's something at the Capitol where they have like trainees and stuff. And it's just like they help you with like legislation and like figure out what you want to like do. And they had one of their like meetups at Bear Dive, and it was pretty cool.
They have a drag, I think it's a drag open mic kind of thing. I think you have to sign up in advance.
Mm-hmm.
I just went to a performance 2 days ago, actually.
Oh, okay.
It was nice. There were people there who had performed for a while, and there are people who were totally new.
Yeah.
And it was their first performance. At least one person's first performance.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. All right, I'll look into that. Yeah, I actually bought a pair of heels, and like I've been dancing at this dance company down here in heels, and like I think it's so much fun. I think it's just feeling like a different side of me that I've never felt before. Going from like being on the wrestling team to dancing in size 15 heels. It's different.
Does it feel freeing to you?
Absolutely. It feels like I don't have to live up to somebody's like expectations, and I don't have to like be like, oh, masculine will, and I don't have to talk in his voice. I could just feel like a little bit freer.
Is there a way that you relate to the queer community through drag, or what you're thinking about drag?
What do you mean?
Like, does it make you feel like a part of this broader community and history when you think about doing drag?
I think so. I think it brings me closer, especially because like growing up, all of my friends are straight. I don't think I had a single like queer friend except for like a friend named Aaliyah I had in high school, but even then we weren't like best friends. And I think like doing that, I mean to this day I still don't have like I have like 4 like queer friends. And I think doing that, like it just like hearing like being surrounded by my community and people like seeing me it's really nice.
So is there anything else you wanted to say about kind of your relationship with your family in terms of coming out as bisexual or gay? Like, has it been hard in other ways that you haven't already mentioned, or is anything else you want to say about that?
Honestly, I think that was it. I think honestly just the drag thing was probably like what hurt me the most. It was a really, really bad time. I'm glad like we moved so far past that, but that was probably like one of the worst times of my life.
How old were you?
I was 19 and no, actually I was still 18. Yeah. That was so hard. Me and my mom's relationship really like hurt because of that. And like it was still stuff that like I've forgiven her for, but it's still stuff that like you still remember. Yeah.
So where did you find affirmation and support in your identity?
Oh, my identity is so hard. I feel like recently, like regarding this last week, I feel like I've gotten a lot of support with a few people at American River College. But before that, it was really hard for me and all my brothers. Um, when my dad passed and we moved in with my grandmother, she is my dad's mom, so she's African American. She always told us to believe in our identity and to always be who we are and never let anybody take that away from us. However, that's not what I've experienced within my community. Um, I was always called like the white kid. I hate when anybody is like, "Oh, what are you?" I mean, I had a lady at Starbucks who was like, "Oh, you look so Egyptian, yada yada yada." And I was like, "Oh." She's like, "What even are you?" And I was like, "Oh, my dad is black and my mom's Italian." And her first response like, "Oh, where's your color?" And like, I don't take any like, I take it with a grain of salt. People are ignorant and people just aren't like educated. But it was things like in high school, I ran for the Black Student Union president, and like a few of them told me that I shouldn't run because I wasn't dark enough and it was misrepresentation. I tried to put on an event at ARC and I was met with a lot of backlash because of it. Because I wasn't dark enough and it looks like I'm trying to save the community and yeah, yeah.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on what that experience was like?
That was tough. I mean, I ever since I was a child, like nobody has believed that like that I was black. And especially like I know my oldest brother, he had the biggest problem with it because he went to like Christian Brothers and Christian Brothers was ruthless. And he was just like what? Well, he looked like a white kid with like blue eyes and blonde hair, but he had like a fro and like cornrows and stuff. But it was just like little comments you would hear constantly, and it was just stuff that would just like make you sick. And everybody loves like to ask me that question of like, what are you, or like, what are you mixed with, like. And I think it's something I've kind of gotten to the point with where I'm just gonna walk away from it. With going to like the A to Men conference, I feel like for some reason I felt like I was taking somebody's spot, and I feel like I was looked at differently than a lot of the people who were there. Um, I didn't choose to come out this light. Like I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a say in it. Um, I identify as mixed, but I identify with my black culture a lot more than I do with my Italian side. My mom's Italian. I'm not. No. But yeah, it's just I don't know. It sucks, especially when I try to do things like for our community, like the block party thing I was trying to put on. It just sucks, like getting backlash over like something, and I'm like, hey, did you want to help? Did you want to contribute to it? Like, you're not the one like messaging like the NAACP. You're not the one messaging like Sac State's Black Student Union, like reaching out to all these communities and like all these organizations. And I don't know. I feel like I've talked to a few people like I think literally 2 days ago, and like that really helped. But it's still something I really struggle with.
Do you feel like you have to come out as biracial or black?
Absolutely. I feel like I have to tell everybody like I feel like now any interaction I have with anybody is just like, you look Puerto Rican, you look Egyptian, you look, what have I gotten a lot? I've gotten Middle Eastern a lot. Like, I've gotten everything but like black. Um, and like, I feel like even before, like, I feel like everybody I hung out with when I was a child was black. Like, most of my friends were like, I feel like I was always singled out as like the white kid of the group. So yeah, it was just yeah. But I mean, I had a few friends growing up who were always like stop messing with him. He's black. Like leave him alone. Like that was really nice. But yeah.
Did you have or do you have other friends who are biracial who you can relate to, who have had similar experiences, or there's some overlap anyway in your
I
experience?
mean, not. I wouldn't say like I have a lot of friends who I think you could tell like they're a little bit darker than I am, or like like you could tell by like their hair. You could tell by something that they're mixed. I would just say my family, like my cousin, both of my brothers, like the stuff we talked about time and time again. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you grew up poor, but that you're now middle class. Can you elaborate some on that? So what was your class growing up? What did it mean to be poor? And what do you mean? when you say that you're middle class now?
Um, so when I say I grew up poor, my dad passed when I was one, on New Year's, and after that, like my mom made some choices and stuff, and we had to go live with our grandmother. My grandmother, and she was like working in like a hospital at the time, so she had a lot of money. But I think I was only with her for like 3 or 4 years, and after that, I moved back in with my mom. But we lived in like free housing through the church, and that required us to go to church every Sunday. And that's where she met my stepdad at. But unfortunately, they found that the church found out that they were like talking to one another, that they were in a relationship. So we got kicked out of there. And we ended up living in our first apartment. But it was just like, what, four of us in like I think it was, I want to say it was a 2 bedroom, but it was just like, it was really small. We walked everywhere. We finally got a car, but it was like the worst car that would break down everywhere. Um, I mean, yeah, like I don't think we ever had to worry about like food per se, because my mom had what, 2 or 3 kids, so she got a lot of food stamps. But I mean, yeah, we just like wore the same clothes. We probably looked really dirty. We just didn't have a lot of money during the time, and never really went out to eat. We had a lot of frozen like dinners, like Salisbury steak, the worst thing in the world.
When you said that, I thought it sounded delicious for
Oh
some
my
reason. I was
gosh,
like, I remember eating Salisbury steak.
it was not my cup of tea. I hated all of it. And yeah, I mean, I used to walk. We went to the schools closest to us, and they were in a pretty bad area. All the schools I've ever been on, from like freshman or from like the time I was in elementary school to the time I was a senior, was on the same street. Because I was able to walk to all of them, and I was never able to like get dropped off or anything like that. Um, and I would say now we're a higher class because I mean we went from like being in free housing to being in an apartment to finally getting to like a duplex, and then to finally being in like a house. You know, we've been in the same house for like 6 years now, and I mean, like now we're able to go on like a vacation, but I mean, a vacation is like us getting a cabin in like Santa Cruz. It's nothing crazy like going to Rome or anything fun like that. But it's a lot nicer. I remember our first time going to like Six Flags, and I was so excited. Like there's a picture of like me with like candy smiling at the camera. But I remember like that was like my favorite thing because we've never done anything like that before. You know, like I wasn't able to go on any like school field trips or anything that were like super expensive, because we just didn't have the money for it. But like definitely towards like my like I'd say my sophomore year up, it definitely got a lot better. Like my mom got a new job. She finally worked her way back up the ladder to like where she was before like everything happened. And like we stopped going to grocery outlet in Linco. We shop at Rayleigh's now. I don't know, like I think something that would define it as middle class. I don't think I ever like really have to worry. I know that especially like if I end up running out of money or anything like that because I still do live at home, my mom would be able to be like, here's this, you will pay me back. However, like here's this for now, which is really nice.
And what does your mom or do for a living?
So she went from like different like retail places. So she's went from like Chico's to Soma, and now she's a GM at Ulta. So gotta love some free skincare stuff.
And she moved up, and that's why she's making.
Yeah. She was there before like everything happened. Like after like before like my dad died, I think she was a GM for a place and stuff. But after that, like everything fell apart. She basically had to start over. And she would like walk to work every single day, like just an hour, just take the bus somewhere, and like she's worked her bleep off to like really, to get to where she is now.
And is what your stepdad does? Is that relevant? What does he do?
Um, so he's had just like my mom a bunch of different jobs. I think at first he was just like cleaning like houses or something like that. He was like the construction person in like buildings or something like that. His current job, I think he now works on like solar panels, but I mean, he still works like from 5 to 5 without a choice,
Mhm.
you know, which I know he's not the happiest about. He previously worked on like hospital beds and stuff. Uh, but yeah, he's come a long way as well.
Can you talk a little bit about what you do for work
Hmm.
currently?
Um, so I'm a shift lead, very important. I'm a shift lead at Starbucks. I have been on and off there. Like I started when I was a senior. I quit and I went to Dutch Bros and I came back. And I also work at the Center of Teaching and Learning on campus. And I also work at a sushi spot and I'm a server there.
And how many hours do you work?
Usually around like 40 to 55. Um, yeah, I have really early mornings. I usually, like during summer, my schedule was I'd have to be at work from 4:30 to 9:30, and then I would have class from like 10 to 4. And then sometimes after that, I'd go to my sushi job from 4 to 10. So I'd have really long days. I'm glad I worked at Starbucks because I could always keep some coffee with me. I and then days I don't have like school, I would usually work at the Center of Teaching and Learning from 8 to 12, and then from 12 to 6, and then any leftover time I go help out at my other job.
Do you work that many hours during the regular academic year too?
Well, this is the first time I think I've had 3 jobs, but I usually don't touch less than 30 to 40.
And how do you find balancing working so many hours with taking classes full time? Is it difficult?
Very difficult. I think my grades definitely suffered because of it, especially because like I mean I feel like I can't call out of my Starbucks shop because like I mean I am a shift lead, so like I feel like I do have to like hold up a certain like I have to find my shift to get covered. I can't even like try and call out or anything like that. But it's really hard trying to like manage everything. Um, but I mean like on days that like maybe I don't work at 4 a.m. and I only have like let's say class at 10, I would wake up still probably around like 5 and just do homework all morning. In between jobs, my sushi job has gotten really slow, so he would let me work on homework there. Um, yeah,
Do you find like there's just not enough time in the day to get everything done?
yeah. There's been way too many nights that I've stayed up until like 1 and having to get up at 4 and just being like exhausted, like just sleeping on my like lunch at work. Just trying to get some sort of rest in or like accidentally falling to sleep in class. Yeah, it just seems like all of that like is just like running myself thin, and then to add on like student government, or to add on like an emoji event or like a pride event, it's a lot.
So why do you work so many hours per week?
I have bills I have to pay. um, I mean I still have to pay rent. I have to pay insurance, which is like $300 a month. I have a car payment. I have a phone bill. Just different things that I have to pay for. I have a boatload of like doctor stuff that I still have put off for a very long time that I should probably get finished with. And just trying to, I don't know, I don't want to say like keep up and survive, but also to like model. Like, I mean, a lot of the times I have to buy my own clothing, just to be able to go like hang out with friends. I would say just like a lot of stuff. Generally, like money makes the world go round. Indeed, I mean, it is what it is. Like, hopefully, like when I do get my degree and stuff, it'll be worth it.
So do you feel like, so you said you live at home still?
Mm-hmm.
And how come you still live at home?
Um, that is a very good question. I ask myself that a lot. I feel like, especially now, I just had a conversation with my mom. I don't think I'd really be able to afford it. I mean, like, just my car payment insurance alone is like 500, it's like $600. And like rent in Sacramento is insane. I would love to live on dorms. I would take out a loan personally to live in dorms. I think that would be such a great experience. However, like, we don't offer that at ARC. Um, and I think I'm my mom's baby, and I'm the youngest, and she doesn't want to let me go.
Um, I had a question, but it just left my mind. Okay, maybe we'll come back to that. So are you out as bisexual or pansexual at your jobs?
I'm out as gay.
As gay.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you out to everybody as gay? Or just certain people?
I think they could tell. I feel like I'm pretty comfortable with my sexuality. Just like randomly like voguing across the Starbucks floor or something like that. I feel like my sushi job was probably the hardest to like talk to any of them about, and like I didn't want to say I didn't want them to be disappointed in me. They're great people. It's like a little mom and pop shop, and I love them to death. But they have very different views than I do politically, and they like would just always make a joke about like a girl who would walk in or do something like that. It's just very hard to just be like, oh, I don't care. Like it's very hard to just like not go along with it. And I know it's probably doing myself a disservice, but it was definitely easier to do that. But I came in with my ex and I told them that. It was a very big shock for them. So.
Have you ever experienced, or has your sort of experience at work been shaped by your sexual orientation at all? Do you think?
I would say kind of. That's a really hard question. I don't want to sound cocky, but I feel like especially like my sushi job or Starbucks, there will be a lot of like random times where I'll get either like a guy or a girl's number. And I feel like a lot of the time, like my manager will make like a comment or, something like that. Be like, oh, do you think he's cute? And I remember there was this guy that made me so uncomfortable. Like anytime he'd come in to get some coffee, I would go immediately to the back. And I remember he called the store looking for me, and even though my manager knew like that man made me so sick, like she still handed me the phone. It was like, I'm sorry. Just like different experiences like that, I would say.
Like, because he was kind of harassing you or hitting you or
Yeah,
something?
yeah, because he was like trying to hit on me, and like he asked for like my number or something like that. Like, and I was like, no.
And he just kept pushing it.
Yeah.
And do you think the experience would have been different if, it was a guy hitting on a woman at the job? Do you think,
I that's really hard. I do think it would be a little bit different. I think a lot more people would be like, I would say protective, I guess you can say. I'm a big, strong, like 6'4" man. I feel like a lot of people think like, oh, he'll be fine. He can take it, And again, I think that's just kind of the stereotype that is put on me a lot of the times. That, oh, he'll be fine, like he can fend for himself, and
Yeah. I think I asked that in part because I think harassment in like same gender situations is often not taken as seriously.
Yeah. I mean, especially with the guy, like I talked to my manager about it, but that was like a really hard thing because like, I mean, he still comes to our store and I still go to the back every single time like he walks in. And it's just something that still makes you really uncomfortable, but like, I think it's really hard for maybe even like me to just be like, hey, like, can we like ban this guy from coming in? Or like, can we say something to him? Because like, it just, I don't know, I don't want people, it's that masculinity, a toxic masculinity. I don't want people to see me as like, weaker. Yeah.
Let's see. So, do you have any concerns about your current financial well-being? Your financial well-being in the present or in the future?
I would say, yeah. I'd say even with all of my jobs, I'm still really struggling to stay like afloat. Just like, especially at the beginning of the month, I want to say there's just like $900 I have to pay for. That just comes out of like all of my checks and stuff. And I think it's hard for me to manage my money, like just trying to, because again, I don't get financial aid. I haven't gotten it in a long time, and hopefully I'll get it next semester. With like after like with the probation and stuff, because I didn't know like you were supposed to fill out something. I thought like after a while it would just go away. But yeah, I would definitely say Right now, it's a little hard. My car eats up gas, and I go through like $100 like a week on gas. Um, yeah,
Yeah, gas is insane right now.
gas is so bad right now. Yeah,
Keep thinking it's going to get better, but it doesn't seem to get
right.
better.
I think it was hard too because I was dating somebody who already had their master's, and who already has like a whole life built for themselves, like who can afford to live in a house by themselves, or who can afford to live in an apartment in downtown Sacramento, who can afford to drive up to LA whenever they want to, or fly to LA whenever they want to. And I was trying to contribute a lot to that, which I financially cannot do. Like,
That was one thing I think when my mind would blank. I wanted to ask you about your financial aid because you're working a lot of hours right now. That must be in part because you have to pay right for all your units. You're not getting financial aid.
Mm-mm. Yeah. I think it sucks, especially because the fact that like COVID affected so many people. And I think that's what partly it's my fault. I should have dropped the classes. I had life and stuff going on, and for some of them, I know I can hold myself accountable. For some of them, that was the last of my worries, was dropping some classes. And I think that they should be a lot more forgiving. Um, COVID was hard for everyone, for everyone. I mean, the idea that like, I mean, I came back in like last semester with no financial aid and still working so many hours. I still got like a 3.2, and I'm like, imagine what I could do if I could work less and get financial aid. I don't know. It's really frustrating, and like my appeals form still hasn't even gone through yet, and I think I submitted it now like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I'm just like waiting to see like hopefully this will go through.
I hope it does.
Me too, because I'm worried about I'm supposed to transfer to Sac State in the spring, and I'm really worried about like what's like I don't want to say what's gonna happen, but like I don't know like the logistics of like me going and like what if I'm still on probation from it. Like am I gonna have to pay out of pocket for that? Like that's not possible.
Should you consider calling the financial aid office at Sac State just to give yourself peace of mind, to get some answers.
At Sac State, no, just at ARC, but that's a good idea.
Yeah. So they might lend you some clarity.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's just stressful to pay for college. And it's going to get more expensive, obviously, right, at Sac State.
Yeah, the last thing I wanted to do was take out like a loan for my undergrad, especially like during like when I've already done 2 years of it. Like I didn't want to have to do all that, but it's hopefully I still don't. But who knows,
So do you think working so many hours has affected your ability to do well in your classes? Like, has it resulted in you getting Fs or dropping out of classes because you're just working so much and it's hard to focus on your studies?
Yeah, 1,010%, especially during the summer. That was so hard. Like even with the amount of coffee I would drink in a day, like the idea of going to work or being up at 4, being at my job by 4:30, working, getting yelled at all morning by people who want their coffee, to then like rushing over to school. And my first professor was a stickler on being late. He was like, you have to be here on time. And I told him my situation. He was like, I still need you to be here on time. And I was on time every time after like the first time I was late. But then like I went from that class being 3 hours then to another class being 3 hours. And that one was film, and I fell asleep in a lot of that class. With some great movies that we watched, I remember half of them. And then like again, like having to park like on the outskirts of like the parking lot, just make sure I can go run to my car and be the first one out, and like driving on my way to work, like changing in my car. Yeah, it was really hard trying to fit in like everything.
Do you ever take advantage of any of the resources on campus? I mean, I know you work so many hours, so you have some money coming in, but like the food pantry or things like that, or like, have you ever taken advantage of any of those resources?
I would think the food pantry a lot more this summer because we have like no places to eat on campus at all, and it's so expensive trying to DoorDash something or like trying to again like waste gas and go somewhere to buy something. So yeah, I've been going to the food pantry a lot. I've been using like the meditation room if I get out of the class early to like take a nap, just like laying down like a few rugs or something like that.
Where's the meditation room?
It's in the it's the student center, where they take people on tours and stuff, right next to the Unite Center. I forgot what that's called, but yeah, it's right next to there. And I want to say resources, like the gas card is coming clutch. However, it was only $50, and that gave me like half a tank. But I mean, it's something. Excuse me.
So, do you ever feel like you experience any mental health issues, and has that affected your ability to kind of like do well in school? Feel free to answer or not answer that question. I know it's personal.
Yeah, I would say especially last week was like really, really hard for me. I broke up with my partner on Sunday, and then I found out like 2 hours later that my grandma was in the hospital. And of course, it was finals week. And I was like, God is really testing me, or somebody's really testing me right now. And like, I'm pretty sure I dropped down to a C in that class from an A, just because of everything going on. And I emailed my professor about possibly turning in something late, and that was like a sorry, which really sucks. But I mean, again, like it is what it is. Like I'm not failing the class by any means, but I mean, I worked really hard in that class to try to get an A. I think every single semester I felt like something was kind of like collapsing. Like either my car would flip, or like I find out like somebody in my family like has like cancer. Like I mean, not to just like throw that out there, but honestly, it just seemed like a lot. Like my relationship with my mom would like somehow get like rocky or something like that, you know.
And have you found when things like that happen in your personal life, have you found that your professors are accommodating? I mean, you just told the story of one professor not being accommodating, but what's been your experience in general with professors being accommodating or not accommodating?
There's been some that I would say that are very accommodating. I had an English professor last semester that was so sweet. That was super nice. That really helped me. And there was like my ADMJ like 320 professor. Like I remember I went into the final and I was just bawling, just crying my eyes out because like I think I had like food poisoning or something during the time. And they really like they were just like honestly go home, like it's okay, like you have a good grade in the class, you'll be fine regardless, just take it online. I've had a pretty decent amount of professors who would do stuff like that. I want to say most of them. I would say just the last one I had was very interesting. Yeah.
So, if you needed accommodations like to turn something in late because you've been working so much or there's something happening in your personal life, is there anything that you would want professors to know, right, in terms of how they should treat students who are going through things like that, like in terms of like just sort of in their relationship with their students, how they're accommodating, anything else you can think of?
Yeah, I would definitely say there are so many students that go through so many different things. Some students don't have to work. Some are able to just go to school. I would love that. I would love to just be able to go to school, not have to worry about working. Like I would have a 4 point whatever, like I would have such good grades if I was able to do that, but that's not everyone's case. A lot of students have to take care of their kids. A lot of students have to take care of their parents, take care of their brothers, take care of siblings, take care of themselves. And it's really hard. And I think from the beginning of the semester, get to know your students. On the other hand of the last one that I had that I felt like was a little, I don't want to say interesting or like a little mean. There was the one I had for my college success class, and he was my favorite professor like I've ever had, hands down, because he knew my name by the second day of class, and he was constantly checking in on me, constantly asking how I was. And this last like week that was really hard for me. Like he was so sweet, and he was genuinely like there's nothing more I could ask for him to do. I would just say like be there for your students, give them, if they want to talk, pull them aside. Like I have so many professors that like if I were to start crying, I feel like they would just watch me cry and let me walk out of class after, or like they wouldn't stop and be like, hey, are you okay? you know, I would say have a heart. I know that sounds really bad, but
So I have a very broad question. Can you tell me a little about your educational journey from high school to the present?
um, yeah. In high school, I didn't really care about anything until like I'd say like my senior year. I wasn't taking like anything serious, which I really regret. Um, Not even. I think I would still go to community college if I changed everything, but I think just like my learning wise, I think I would have picked up some really good habits, but I just didn't care. I think I graduated with like a 2 like 4 or something like that. And I think I I didn't start caring until my senior year when I was like, oh wait, like I can maybe have a chance of going to like a UC or something like that. And I started taking like IB courses and stuff like that. But by that time, it's too late. Like I took IB theater, and that was different because I love theater and I had a really big passion for it. However, like my IB English class I enrolled into, I was never contacted. You had to read 2 books over the summer. I was never told that like until weekend, like the first day there, I think was a quiz, and I was like, I had no idea about any of this. And like as soon as I talked to the professor about it, he was like, you're already too like behind in the class. So I had to drop that and go back to the other program I was in. But yeah, I mean, I graduated there. I went into ARC, and I feel like even then I just wasn't taking it seriously. Like I think I was just being there again. Like I was there all day, just like talking or sitting down and not really, like even doing homework. I think I was just there, like just trying to make friends. I don't think I took college seriously until I came back. Till I'm like, I'm tired of working this much. I will do this for the next 3, 4, 5 years that I have to, but after that, I just want to be able to have one job and have like a financial, like, like a really good financial situation and not have to worry about working so many hours and like burning myself out. Like I really started looking into different colleges. Like I started doing student government, which I love. I'm like looking at. I was already in Emoja, but like looking to be like one of the student leaders within it, or like one of the student leaders within like the Pride Club. I feel like this year I've really looked at college differently. Like if I would have took that college success class my freshman year, it wouldn't have meant anything to me. But that class meant a lot to me. So.
When did you come back? So you took a break and you came back?
So no, I went online and I continuously took courses. I just failed all of them. I would just like sign up for them, and then I'd be like, oh, I had to move out because my mom got into an argument, or like, oh, like my grandma's back in the hospital, or just be something like that, and I would just forget about the courses, and by the time I'd come back, it was just too late.
So like you came back. You mean when you say you came back sort of like
Midway through the
mentally
semester.
in terms of how you were invested in your classes, but also just being in person too?
No, when I mean like I came back, I mean like I would come back like do the semester like online, and by that time I couldn't even like drop the class or something, like or that time like there was just nothing I could do, and like I don't think any of the professors were like willing to give me like a like or whatever like they could or like something on my transcript for it.
Did professors reach out to you when you were falling behind?
I could again like I can't blame anyone but myself. I'm an adult, and I made that decision to keep enrolling in classes knowing that like knowing that I wasn't going to attend them, or I wouldn't even say knowing I wasn't going to attend them, just I didn't drop them, and that's my fault, and I can't blame anybody for it. But it would have been so nice if like a professor would have like messaged me or like done anything like that. Like my email is connected to my personal email, and I would have gotten it right away. But yeah, never got any of that.
So you like stopped showing up, stopped turning in work, and your professors didn't even reach out to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's disappointing.
Yeah, tell me about
it. So were you out in your sexual identity when you were in high school?
No. I hung out with the most toxic group of guys in the world. That whole situation.
Okay, so the question I think was about being out in high school. So were you out in high school? What was your experience in high school?
I was not out in high school. I feel like it was something that I kind of like lied to myself about, I mentioned previously that when I was younger, I used to watch like RuPaul's Drag Race. And I used to sneak that on, but when my parents found out that I was watching it, or that found out somebody was watching it, I'd never watch it again. Um, and I didn't come out to anybody except for like two girls, I would say, when I first started dating the first guy I dated. And but like even then, I think it was like 2 days before this, like the school year ended. And he my ex felt hidden, and he felt very like not shared, and we broke up because of it. And I remember he told me that the only way that we would get back together is if I posted him and I came out. So I posted that on my Instagram, and I got a lot of, like, I wouldn't even say hate. I would say I got a lot of stuff that really hurt my feelings. Just going through all the people that I hung out with, like from high school, and just seeing like, wow, like we ate lunch together every single day, and you unfollowed me as soon as you saw that post. I think that really hurt my feelings. I think I can say I have one friend from high school left. That's a guy that I still kind of somewhat talk to. But everyone just started treating me differently. Like, I mean, I was always hanging out at like everyone's house and always doing that stuff, and then like that stopped happening. I wasn't really like welcome, or like I would see like anytime somebody would see me somewhere, they would start laughing, or they would like say a little like something under their breath or something that I couldn't hear. It was really disheartening, and if I could take it back 1,010% and just be myself, I would. I was so afraid, and it makes me feel awful because there was a friend that I have now, and he was out. And I don't want to say I was mean, but I definitely was standoffish, and I definitely was like kind of like hiding away. And I would try to like avoid any contact I had with him. And it was awful. And like I really wish I could take it all back, but you live and you learn.
So did you kind of know that you were gay or bi in high school, and you just were not out because you were afraid of the consequences?
Yeah. I knew. I knew since I was like 8 in my grandma's house. And it was just something that like I've always just been like afraid of. Like I was just so much easier being masculine. Well, it was so much easier being like on the baseball team and people making like homophobic jokes, and I just sit there and I'm just haha, like I'm pretending to laugh at it. And I knew my entire world would change. And it did. But I mean, it was definitely something that I think needed to happen. So I could like just like be myself and be free and be with somebody I really like loved and I cared about at that time.
When you posted on Instagram, were you still in high school?
I think I just got out of high school. I think it was like a month or two after, but I mean I was still hanging out with my friends, like we would still go like randomly like Santa Cruz or something like that. And then as soon as I posted it, like all of it stopped. I noticed I went down like 15, 20 followers. And I was like, wow, like that.
What do you think it was about that friend group that you had that you knew that they wouldn't be as accepting?
A lot of them were really religious. I had one of my really good friends, and she was the first person I ever told. And, like she was like, you need to stop hiding it, yada, yada, yada. And I remember we were going to go to a party one night. And then when she came to pick me up, she was like, honestly, like I wouldn't do that here. Just because like last time I hung out with them, they made a comment about like they don't dislike gay people, but they just need to keep that over there. And she basically just told me to not say anything about it. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like.
Remember how you felt at that time? Like, how did that make you feel? That comment, like she was the one saying you shouldn't be out.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it kind of changed. She was like, "Oh, I didn't know these people were like this." I don't know. I was really hurt. I feel like I haven't been able to be myself, honestly, until recently. Like, I mean, before this year, I went to like one Pride. I've never been to a Pride before that, and I've been out for like 4 years now, or 5 years or whatever. And before this year, like, I was just so afraid of going, or like, I was just so afraid of being myself. Like, I still do it to this day, where like, I'll change my voice to who I'm talking to. Or like when I go hang out with my cousin and his friends, like I change my voice, or I wear like a more masculine presenting like outfit compared to like other things, you know.
So you're still going through a process of sort of being totally yourself?
Like I really, I think this came with modeling. I love like a show-stopping outfit. I'm very, I wouldn't say extra, but I'm very extra. Um, but I mean, I would never wear some of those things like with like my cousin or anything like that, especially in front of his friends.
So you still feel a little bit like you have to kind of present yourself as typically masculine around certain people?
I mean, like even even when I'm at home, and I know my mom doesn't mean anything by this, um, I will like. I remember I cut like a shirt to a crop top, and my mom was like, I walked out, and she was like, "Oh no, like that's not you. You're alpha." I was like, "I'll go back in my room." Yeah, just little things like that, and um, yeah, I still feel like I'm definitely going through like a change with that. Um, Especially like even like when I do go out within the community, or I do go to like a bar, or I do go to anything like that. Um, I know that like, how do I say this? I know like a lot of people would expect me to dress up in like a backwards hat, or you know, something like that, rather than like me showing up in like, I don't know, something more feminine or something more like flamboyant, I guess you could say. Yeah.
So in high school, were there teachers who were out? Were there other students who were very visibly out? Like, was there any kind of queer community?
Ooh, there was two in my class, and there was a trans woman, and there was I believe she was lesbian, um, but I think she was more masculine presenting person in my class, and I think the trans, no, I think the lesbian woman was definitely more accepted by like the class, like was like on the basketball team, like still did a lot of like those kind of stuff. But the trans woman went through a lot. Went through a lot. Like in class, like I remember like my friends group would say something, or like I when I was on the football team, there was this guy who was 2 years older, and he saw that person in a play, and I remember him saying he was like, um, I don't care what they do. Like it's none of my business. Just don't put it in my face. You know, like that seemed to be like a running theme.
So you went to high school from what, like 2014 to 2018, something like
No,
that?
2016 to 20, oh wait, 2015 to 2019.
2015 to 2019. Okay, it's not that long ago.
It's a long time ago.
Were there any queer student clubs?
Not of my knowledge, maybe there was one, but there was like nobody in it. At least to like my knowledge. Yeah, I don't think there was like anybody in it. I don't think there was anybody really in my class. Like even that I could think about now. Like there's some that I know now that have like followed me recently that like have came out. But I don't think there was like really anybody who was like openly out and like themselves. Especially, I want to say honestly, like my class and like people before us, I think there was still like a big stigma behind it. I think there was a few classes underneath that I saw like openly gay people and like openly like lesbian people, or like you know, like I saw like people just being proud of who they are. But I don't think,
So
no.
people just a little younger than you?
Yeah, people. And I also at my high school we had a thing called Sportsorama where it was like all the classes would do events against each other. I did it all 4 years. I loved it, and I came back with a coach, and it made me so happy just seeing like so many people just being themselves. You know, like I think it's a lot more accepted now. And like I couldn't imagine how hard it was for people who were like older than I am, like you know, like get 5 years older than I am, and I couldn't imagine how bad it was. But I mean, it's really nice to see like now, and I still think we have some ways to go, but especially outside of California. But yeah.
It's amazing how much change has happened just in a matter of years, a few years, a handful of years.
Yeah.
Um, so were any of your high school classes Were they inclusive of queer and trans topics at all that you remember?
I think we touched on it in health, and I think a professor just like I think she like touched on the subject, and it was just about like using protection and stuff. And I think she was like, I have to talk about this because like I have to, and then just like went on and just was like, and I think it was during like the sex ed part of it, and just went on that. But it was such a short subject. Nothing in history ever talked about it. Nothing in like literature. There was like no books that really consisted of anything like that. There was.
Do you think it would have been meaningful to you to have had classes that actually included queer and trans topics?
Yeah, I think I still feel like I don't know a lot about like I mean like queer like history or like queer culture or anything like that. Like I think the first ever movie like despite RuPaul's Drag Race I ever watched was like Love, Simon, and that came out like probably like 6 years ago now or something like that. But I mean it was still like something that was like foreign to me. There was no mention of like any gay anything in history, and I didn't see it around me. Like I think I had one professor who like could have possibly been like gay, but like everybody just joked around about it and like never like said anything about it, and there was no like seriousness behind it. So like I mean, it would have been really nice to see something like that. I mean, maybe it would have helped me come out like sooner. And it maybe like I don't know would have helped a lot of other people.
What about like, Black Studies, Black History? Was that covered in your
I
curriculum?
think vividly, like I think it was never anything that was like solely like touched on, you know. I think it was. I feel like public school just went over like the basics of everything. They didn't want to go into any detail or anything like that. Um, that would have been a very nice thing to talk about, or just like have an open discussion about. Um, yeah, I wish it was kind of like college, and it was nothing like that. But you could have picked what classes you wanted to take, but we all know that's not how it is.
What was the racial makeup like of your high school?
I think my high school was predominantly, I want to say it was Asian. Um, Mariloma is like a very, very smart school. I think it's like an IB program, and there's not a lot of IB programs like
What
within
does that
schools.
mean again?
International Bachelorette. There's not a lot of schools like that. Like I think of that are around us. So people would drive like an hour in the morning, and people would be there like an hour before like school started taking like band or something like that. It was a very smart school, and I think it was mostly yeah consisted of like Asian people, white people, and I want to say the Indian people. But there was not a lot of like Hispanic representation. There was not a lot of Black representation. You know, it was really missing a lot of that, especially in faculty. I don't.
Yeah, teachers are still overwhelmingly white as a profession.
I don't think I had a single like Black teacher in high school. Yeah, I think I had like a in between like principal was or like vice principal. Yeah, there was nobody. Mm-mm.
What would it have meant to you to have black teachers or queer teachers in high school? Do you think that would have been important for you?
It's just somebody you can identify with. That's why I'm so glad I'm back to like A to Men. Like it's so nice to identify with somebody and like for them to understand you and to understand like what you might be going through. Like if I had a queer teacher, just somebody to help me talk about like sexuality or somebody I could talk like have a shoulder to just sit there and talk to. Because I was always at school, like probably I never wanted to walk home, and I think we ended at like 2:30 or 3. I'd probably be at school till like 6 or 7, not doing homework, not doing anything like that, just like talking to like a random teacher, or talking to like my friends or something. And it would have been so nice to just been able to just open up to somebody. Especially, I feel like if I would have known that there was a queer teacher, it would have gave me a door, an avenue to just talk to somebody and just be like, hey, like I don't know, like I've never told anybody this, like I don't know why I'm feeling this way, like I'm really scared, like I don't know what to do, you know.
Um, So I think you mentioned that you're a first generation college student. Is that right?
Mhm.
So how do you think that might have shaped, or might shape your experiences as a college student?
I think it was harder for my brother because although both my parents didn't go, or like my grandparents didn't go, my brother went to San Francisco State and then he transferred to UC Davis. And then my other brother just graduated from Sac State. And I do think it was easier for them. Um, However, like, I do think it was something that was still difficult because they both were like out, like, both of them, I think, were like moved out during the time. So I still had to navigate this stuff by myself. And like I would always ask my mom, like, what should I do with this, or like what classes or something like that, and she just wouldn't know. Um, I think also like they don't understand like college, like they don't understand that hey, I am taking 12 units, or like hey, I am taking 12 units, and my car just like broke down. Um, and they don't understand a lot of like things, so they're still very much like, I'm sorry this is happening to you. You still owe me rent at the beginning of the month. Don't be late. I don't think they understand like how hard some classes will be, or like how like mentally I like drained I am by the end of the day of like going through like 8 hours of work plus like 8 hours of class. And it'll still be like go do this, go do that, go do this. And I would think that just like on campus, I think you can tell like whose parents like probably went to school and whose didn't. Like you can tell who, I don't want to say like all students who usually like sit up front or something like that, or drive a nice car or like anything like that, but I feel like you can get a good sense of who's a first time college student and who's not.
I mean, one thing I can imagine is like, right, you're in class, you're working so many hours, and then there's a ton of work that you're supposed to be doing on top of your classwork or being in class, i.e., your homework.
Yeah.
Um, I can imagine maybe being difficult for your parents who haven't gone to college, understanding how much time, what a time commitment that is.
Yeah. I don't think they realize that like, I mean, we've had a lot of conversations about me like not being present or just going to my room, and it's just like I'm not going to my room because I don't want to talk to you. I'm going to my room because I'm tired. Like I'm exhausted and I don't have like any more like mental capacity to speak to somebody right now, or like I am just like so drawn out. Like I don't want to just get fussed at because like maybe my room isn't the cleanest, or maybe like I don't know, maybe I didn't like think or do the dishes before I left or something like that. And especially on weekends where I might have a day off, those are brutal. I'm like, they want me to go like mow the lawns and like go do this, go do that, and I'm just like, this is my only day off. I'm like, I love you guys, but I don't know. Yeah.
So, can you talk some about your experience taking courses that either wholly or in part focus on queer and trans topics while in college?
I took your class back in I think that 2019, maybe 2020.
It might have been the pandemic semester.
I think it was. Yeah, it was. I took it with my ex. I still felt like I really wish I could take the class again because I still feel like I was at that stage where like I wasn't paying attention in classes, and I still feel like I was just kind of there for just to have fun, or like yeah. I think we agreed to take that class together to just meet more like queer people, and it was cool. I still have the textbook and stuff, and I still look at it a lot. But other than that class, I think I've only really touched on it. Oh my, in my multicultural relations class. And that class was a hard time regarding that because that was my first semester back, and that's when I was taking school a lot more seriously and I was being more involved and stuff. And it was an administration and justice course, and I was surrounded by hetero men. And the professor was talking about it, and we went over the trans subject of like what trans people are, etc. And there was a man in there who I believe he came from a different country, and he made a comment which I thought was really inappropriate. And the professor didn't say anything. People laughed, and he kind of just went on. and what did he say? He was just like, I think he was like, can somebody explain to me what a trans person is? He's like, a what? And I think he just like ended up calling it like a he, she, you know? And it was just something I was like, how are we not going to like address this? Or how are we not just going to say like, I know you don't understand, but you can't say something like that. And I talked to my professor after, and I don't believe he ever said anything to him. He could have possibly, but I don't believe so. Um, I think it's a hard subject that people are afraid to talk about. Like, I feel like a lot of people like don't think like, if it's not my group, I don't have to incorporate it in. For, you know, like, it's like a religious standpoint, or it's like something like that. Like, even with my diversity in film class that I just got out of, the first thing my professor led on that subject, I'm sorry, first thing that my professor led on that subject, like after we got done watching our film, was I don't care what your view is, just don't be like disrespectful. It was like, I'm not going to go into too much depth because I know people have different views on this or something like that. In that class, like I noticed like most of the guys in there didn't show up for the film, would just be sitting there on their phone, just like looking down, not paying attention, and just didn't seem to care. I don't know. It was just difficult.
Did the professor intervene in any way or say anything to the people that were clearly like expressing their disinterest in that way?
Mm-mm.
So in their diversity in film class, the topic of queerness or transness was not covered very much.
No. I think we watched like a film. We watched like a pre-film and like our actual film on it. The film was Milk. It was a really good. I've never seen it before, but I loved it. And I was just shocked by like how many people just like didn't care. Like I made a queer friend in the class, and I was like, and I texted him, and I was like, hey, do you see how many people just aren't paying attention right now, or just looking down at their phone or something like that? And he was like, yeah, it's crazy. And everybody was just like not paying attention. And I really wish he would have said something about it. Like, I mean, it was kind of hurtful. I'm like, I don't know. It was just disrespectful.
Are there other examples you can think of professors including queer and trans topics in their curriculum or doing something to make queer and trans students feel more included and comfortable in the classroom? Any like pedagogical practices, anything like that?
I don't think so. Mm-mm.
Have you noticed any professors like ask about pronouns? Like have they said their pronouns and asked students what their pronouns are?
I think they might say their pronouns. I don't think I've ever had a professor ask, like, be like, say your name, mention your pronouns. I don't think I've ever had a professor do that, except for like, yeah.
And what about like, you know, the experience of being biracial and Black? Are those topics that have been covered in any like really kind of in a way that doesn't feel too superficial or marginal to the curriculum?
No, I don't think any of them. Like, I think if you're just taking general ed classes to just get through your college, like you know, like courses and stuff, I don't think you would learn anything about like queerness or like from like an African American point of view, especially not from like a multiracial, like biracial point of view. That's why I'm really excited for the classes I'm going to take next semester, and I'm really hoping it's going to be touched on, because I don't think I've ever had a course talk about like being biracial or anything like that.
What classes are you excited about in the fall?
I think it was my U.S. history, but from like an African American point of view, and then it's like my race inequality, and I think diversity class. There's one other, and then my regular just social justice class, my intro to it.
Yeah, I think you're going to get a lot of. There's going to be a pretty heavy focus on race and ethnicity next semester.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Those are all my major courses. I've started like buying books and stuff that I plan on reading like throughout like my semester and throughout the gap I have in like my spring and summer, or my summer and fall. Just to like use some of that stuff for like those classes and like I don't know, get like a pre like jump on all that kind of stuff.
And I wonder if they're going to cover these topics like African American history or race the experiences of people of color in U.S. society. If they'll talk about queer people of color.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I wonder.
Something to pay attention to see. Um, so when you have been in classes that have talked about queer and trans topics, has it felt important to you, meaningful in some way?
Yeah. I mean, again, I still feel like I don't know that much about like the history, and I still feel like there's so much more I want to learn. Like, I feel like I have a desire for it. I feel like I'm like starting to finally come to terms with like my sexuality, and I'm starting to feel comfortable in my own skin. I'm starting to feel comfortable walking outside in a crop top, or I'm starting to feel comfortable, like having a bunch of different kind of friends. And I mean, just learning about that stuff, it's really nice. And that's why, like, I wish like more courses would include it. Yeah.
So if there were other courses offered that were queer and trans inclusive, would you like to take them, and what topics would you hope would be covered in those classes?
Yeah. I noticed they added a class. However, they only added it online, which is very, very disheartening. Because I really wanted to take it and it would have fit in my curriculum. I would love to see more. I think what we talked about earlier, just from like an African American point of view as well. Just like not only talking about queerness, but like different lenses of queerness. Talking about like the privilege within like the queer community. Like if we're being blatantly honest, there is such a blatant like display of privilege, honestly, within the queer community. And I think just talking about stuff like that, I think would be really, really educational.
So like a Black queer studies class, or
Yes, I think that would be really nice. And even in the general ed, just like talking about at least touching on each of the subjects would be really nice.
so what do you think it would mean to you? Like, what do you think? What would you hope that experience would be like if there were actually a class offered that focused either wholly or in part on the Black queer experience? Do you think that would feel really meaningful to you?
Yeah, I think again it would be something that I could identify with, and it would be something that I can understand more. I think being black is hard for, or not being black. I'm sorry, being queer is hard for a lot of people, but being queer in the black community is very difficult. There is such a stigma within the black community about being gay. And there's so many examples of it on films. I mean, just like in like, it's like the community itself. I think a class would just be such a good place to like explore and kind of in a sense find yourself and find different things about it.
So, have you had experiences sort of feeling stigmatized because of your sexual orientation in the Black community?
Absolutely. Like, I mean, during my conference, I have a friend named Sabal, and I specifically told him when we tried to event conference, don't tell anybody. I think I took down all of my pictures on my Instagram because I knew they were going to ask for it. I took down like my little flag that I had in there, like, do not tell anybody. I don't want like my experience to be kind of like ruined or to be treated differently because of like my sexuality. I mean, it's just something that it's a stigma that's there. It is.
Okay, we left off talking about stigma in the Black community. What were you saying? You were saying you went to a conference, the HMN conference,
Mm-hmm.
and you felt like you couldn't be out.
Yeah. I mean, even the men that were on stage, kind of like talking to us about like college and success and all that kind of stuff, were just talking about women in like a really bad way, and we're just talking about like, remember this guy got on stage and I believe his wife was down there and he was like, that's mine, that's my property. And, there was just such a talk about like, you have to be the king to your wife and all this stuff. And it's just something that you see a lot, like within the community. So it's definitely something that I try to like put away. Like all of my cousin, like he hangs out with a lot of his friends. I always try and wear something a little bit more masculine presenting or talking to like a lower voice or something like that. Yeah.
So at that conference, was there any acknowledgement of the gay Black experience or queer Black experience at all?
No.
No.
Hmm.
Um, if you feel comfortable talking about it, you said you were involved in a moja on campus.
Yeah.
Very beginning. How long have you been involved in a moja? Can you talk about that experience in general? What has that been like?
So Mocha, I started back in 2019, and it was a lot of fun. It was um, honestly like a place that me and my other friend who I started college with, we could kind of just like go and like talk and like I don't have to have a sense of home, but have a sense of like people that look like us and like who could just help us like throughout college. And yes, I mean I still felt like I was kind of looked at differently because I was like again like this white kid walking in. But I had a really great time in Emoja, and I just recently got back into it too. And I think going back on campus, that was one of the things I was like most excited for. Um, I don't think that they talked really or talk anything really about like the gay like Black experience, which I definitely think could be something that could be touched on. But I think they do a really good job, like what they do about creating a sense of home on campus.
Do you feel like being involved in a moja helps you feel like more of an investment in your college education? Does it help you be more successful as a student?
Yeah. There's somebody I can just like text and just be like, hey, what do you think I should do here? Or like, what classes? Like, can you help me look at this or can you help me look at that? And in a sense, they're kind of like an older sister or like an older brother, or just somebody I know I can like kind of like lean on if I need any help with anything.
Have you taken classes through a moja as well?
Yes, with Professor Paez, and that was my favorite speech class I've ever taken. He was so nice, so sweet. He was very easy to talk to, like regarding like a situation or if I was turning in something late, if he would ask the reason, and he was just a really, really good professor. And I'm really glad I got to take his class. Yeah.
What was that class?
I think it was just speech like 301 or maybe speech 300 or something like that.
So you felt like he was really supportive and he cared about your success.
Yeah. He talked a lot, and I know we didn't have to go into detail about it, but he talked a lot about like his culture, and it was nice. And I don't remember exactly, but I think one of our speeches was on like our culture. It was on something like that. It was cool.
Um, so can you tell me some about your general experience with classroom participation and having a sense of belonging in the classroom? Do you actively participate in class, and where do you feel like you belong, or what's your sense of belonging like? I guess in the classroom.
Um, I feel like now I'm like always sitting in the front. Doesn't matter if I'm the only person up there. I raise my hand and try to answer as many questions as I can, and I really try to build a bond between me and my professor. Because I think the more your professor knows you and knows your face and knows that you're willing to talk and like commit to these conversations, the more of like leeway that they'll give you, and like the more they'll understand you. And like with like an English professor, like I wasn't able to show up every day for class, and I was like really struggling like a lot. And I remember I walked into her office hours and just started crying because of something I had going on during that time. And I remember she just gave me like an extension, and she was like, "Well, when you are in class, you participate so well. Your writing is really good, and I'm sorry you're going through what you're going." And it was really nice. Yeah.
Um, I'm jumping around a little bit, but what do you think faculty can do to make queer and trans students in particular feel more included and respected in the classroom?
I think the first thing that they can do, um, I think it's broadly speaking, not even just the classroom, but on campus, would be to get rid of those little posters that they have on the doors and put up something bigger. Um, I think a lot of the communities, not only just the queer community, is just pushed into the Unite Center. And it's just shoved away into that little area when you don't really see it anywhere else. If you don't go to that area, you're never going to see it. And I think having different stuff around campus or having stuff in classrooms, having just a sign in there that says no, hate isn't allowed on campus or something like that would be really nice. Yes, it might be on some doors like around campus, but it's just not enough. Having like professors like requirement to like put that into the syllabus or something like that would be really nice. Just different things like that.
Um, is there anything else on that topic you can think of? Just sort of what would make you personally feel more, included in the classroom, more respected in the classroom, given both your sexual orientation and your racial identity?
Yeah. I don't know, just maybe just talking about it more. Just like I like especially like with the pronoun like stuff, just like talking more about like that, or just like making everybody say like hi, like my name is this, like like it just I don't know, just giving like more of like an avenue for it, I guess you can say. Like I don't know if that made any sense, but
So it feels sort of like there's an absence currently.
yeah, for sure. I mean, especially like when the Pride Center was closed for however long it was closed, where like you couldn't go anywhere to try to like talk to anybody, or like there wasn't any like representation on campus.
So speaking of that, do you find that like is there queer community on campus? Have you found queer community on campus?
Other than like the one friend I made in class, no. Like I mean, yes, the Pride Center is open now. I get it that it kind of opened up like at the end of the, I think, spring semester. So like I get it that there hasn't been like an event or anything, but like there just needs to be more. There needs to be like more events that go on campus, that like just solely talk about like that, or that solely have to do with that. Um, yeah, it just needs to be out there a lot more.
Have you heard of the GSA on campus, the Gender and Sexuality Alliance?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't think maybe they're not advertising their existence very much.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the queer Discord. It's the Los Rios Queer Discord. Do you know about Discord?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like an online community for queer identified students across Los Rios district.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But again, I guess it's a question of people actually knowing about it.
Yeah.
Being publicized, Do you think you would like to find more queer community on campus? Does that feel like something that's important to you?
Yeah. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I really, like, I still, like, really want to make friends on campus. And I still want to, like, meet people my age, like, because, again, I don't have, like, really any, like, queer friends. And a lot of them are, like, 34 that I might have met at, like, a bar or something like that, And I think it'd be really nice to meet somebody who's, like, who identifies maybe the same way that I do, that looks like me, that, yeah.
So what do you think about like, wait, let me back up a second and look. What has your experience been like with other students in the classroom or on campus? Do you feel like have you run across any issues? Have you ever felt like harassed or discriminated against because of your identities?
I would say just other than like what we already kind of talked about, like regarding the event I should have put on campus, and it wasn't even by somebody I think who went to campus. It was just somebody who saw it. I would say no, but I think that comes again like with like the privilege that I know that I have, like being like more of a masculine presenting like man. Like I know my experience is gonna be totally different than a trans person experience. I know I will never probably go through stuff that they have to go through. Um, I don't think so.
What about based on your racial identity? Have you experienced harassment or discrimination?
I've been called white boy a few times, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've heard that all my life. It's old.
So, where do you feel on campus? Where do you feel most affirmed and supported?
In the Unite Center. In the Unite Center, or I'm not sure what the building is next to it. Forgot what it's called. Is it called the Student Center? in the Student Center and Unite Center. The Student Center more so just because of like my student government and like my connection with like Brett on campus or like Hannah and those people. But the Unite Center just because like everybody in there kind of knows me now because I've shown my face there a lot. And everybody will always come out and say hi to me. Everybody will always like ask me how I'm doing. It's nice.
Do you ever just hang out in the Unite Center? Like, do you use this space just to sort of like get work done or?
No, not really.
Okay. Um, just going through my questions to make sure I'm not missing anything. So I guess I have a couple of general questions. What do you feel like motivates you to learn best in the classroom?
A teacher that truly cares. I know it sounds sarcastic, but there are so many teachers that I feel like are just there to get a paycheck. And I don't think I've ever tried as hard as I did in like a college success course out of all things, you know? Just because that professor, he taught in a way that made me feel so comfortable. And I know he was super hard. He was like super hard on people who didn't show up to class. He was just blatantly honest with stuff, but like he honestly reminded me of my grandpa. Like I'm not even trying to sound bad, but he really did. And he really made me want to like learn. I've had many courses that was like, oh, I love this subject, but I'm like, dang, my professor is just so like mean. It doesn't seem like they want to be here, so why do I want to be here? Or like my other professor, I'm like, she's shown up 15 to 20 minutes late every single day with food in her hand. And I'm like, I'm showing up like starving and not going to like food or go get anything because I'm scared about being late. Like, why am I trying? You know?
So, a professor who cares.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so it seems like you've talked a lot about like how your time in college has evolved over time. So, given where you're at now, what do you like most about being a college student? What makes you excited about being a college student now, and like when you think about what's in store for you in the future as well?
I, hmm. I just really enjoy learning, and I think like people can take a lot of things away from you. Well, it's what my grandma said. People take a lot of things away from you, but they can't ever take your education away. And I think it'll unlock so many doors in the future that like I think people wouldn't be able to get into. I think I am like resiliently me, and I think that can be a bad thing sometimes. Um, but I think it'll get me into spaces that like I'm gonna be able to speak my mind and be able to make a change somewhere, and kind of break down barriers. I think that's my hope.
And okay, so the question I have now, the last question is, what are you most excited about for this upcoming year?
Would definitely say student government. Um, I think that there kind of like was a lack of student government at ARC. There was a little bit, like my little student senate. I love my little crew. But I'm really excited to take Sac State by storm. Like in the fall semester, once I get accepted, I want to like start going to their like BSU events, start going to like the Pride events, just to show my face around. Like honestly, I have a couple of friends at Sac State, and I just want to like study there, wear like a Sac State shirt, hoodie, all that kind of stuff, just so people know my face, and make a change that way. Like yeah, and just start like I don't want to say going up the ladder, but just start like making my mark and leaving a legacy, I guess.
So, is there anything else you would like to add? Anything you'd like to elaborate on?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I'm sure I did not ask all the questions I could have asked, but I appreciate I appreciate your interview. Thank you.
Thank you.